So hey there, fellow YouTubers, Frank Bush here again. So I had the good people over at LiTime send me over another battery they want me to review. I guess they liked the last review and thought it was okay. So this time they've sent me over a 12 volt, 100 ampere hour Group 24 Bluetooth enabled lithium iron phosphate deep cycle battery. So I'll do the unboxing. I'm going to throw it on a charger, and then we'll take it out in the field. I'm going to do a slightly different type of review this time where I want to test the longevity of the product. I know there's a few videos out there where they've already kind of ripped down this battery and, you know, tore it apart and showed all the performance and everything else. So in this video, I want to do more kind of in-field use, you know, real world use examples and that kind of stuff. So like I say, I'll crack this box open and then I'll throw it on the charger for a couple hours, and then I'll cut back scenes and we'll start taking it out in the field and using it. So if you're interested in that kind of content, stay tuned. All right, well, just busted out my trusty Leatherman here, and just pop the knife so I can crack this open and get things going. I'm gonna try to catch this all on camera the best I can, just to show you what the initial quality is like and all that kind of stuff of the packaging and all that happiness. There was a bit of damage on the box itself, but you know, I'm sure that's to do with the shipping and everything. But you know, everything I've received from LiTime previously has all been top shelf quality when it comes to, you know, their packaging and all that kind of stuff, their marketing materials. And if you've seen the previous video, it's very similar product stuff that they have, where, you know, pamphlets and books and all that kind of stuff, manuals, all that happiness. But yeah, it comes in, like I say, nice little, looks like a waterproof pouch of, you know, good quality and all that kind of stuff. The product manual, like I say, it's a smart Bluetooth enabled Group 24, right? That's the key with this one. Of I can hook it up to my phone and have it where my phone can see where this battery is at when I'm out in the field, which I kind of like that. And we'll go through some of the details of all that kind of stuff. But I won't bother reading through all the specs of this kind of stuff. They do have the battery parameters and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, if you're interested in all the fine details. I'm not normally the biggest manual guy in the world, but I'll give it a quick peruse off camera. And like I say, more of their marketing material and that. They're using, you know, like a semi-gloss paper with, you know, high pound weight and stuff. I mean, it's nice marketing material, right? And then you got the quick start guide and stuff. So if you're absolutely unfamiliar with using batteries and all that happiness, you know, they go through the basic bits and bobs. Like I say, that wasn't the objective for this video. I really want to take this out into the fields and kind of use it in real world practical application. And so they give you a bunch of stickers if you're kind of keen on throwing that on RVs or on the back of your truck or whatever, that kind of stuff, yeah. And then here we got a set of number 8 bolts. They throw 2 with little caps on them. So I'll try to see if, I mean, you'll see it later in the video, but it's just a couple bolts with some washers and stuff. They put little red and black caps and that kind of happiness, right? So either way, we'll just kind of pop this part out now. And we're into the meat of the battery. And you can see they give a bit of buffering around and stuff. So if the box does take damage, you know, it's not a big deal. And in this one, I see that they've gone with the handles. In the Mini that I reviewed previously, they had like a fabric, that like a webbing that you used that went across, they grabbed and picked up. So this has kind of the hard plastic handles and that kind of stuff. I'll just set that down here, make sure there's nothing else in the box. Normally there isn't. When it comes to batteries, it's pretty straightforward. Yeah, nothing else really in the box, but like I say, I'll just turn around and put these bolts on. They've got little caps here. You just pop these off. And I'll just screw my bolts on and get that hooked up. And then I'll show you the top of the battery. They normally have all the specs and ratings and that kind of stuff of these batteries displayed right on the top, so you know its exact performance. I'll show you that in 2 seconds. Then we just hook these bolts on, and I'll shift camera angles and we'll look at the details on the top close up, yeah? Okay, I'm not sure exactly how good the camera is going to be at picking up the fine details of this. So I'll just read it out to you, yeah? So we got a 12.8 volt, 100 ampere hour smart edition, they call it. It's got a nominal voltage of 12.8 volts with a rated capacity of 100 ampere hours, and then a rated energy of 1,280 watt hours. So it's got a charge voltage of 14.4, give or take 0.2 of a volt. Then it's got maximum continuous charge and discharge current of 100 amps, and then a maximum continuous output power of 1,280 watts. So, and then it goes through, downloading the app, and you can get it from the Apple Store or from Google Play, and gives you the little, smart reader code and all that kind of happiness. And then for enabling your Bluetooth, you get the exact same kind of thing, yeah? So, like I say, generally speaking, I find LiTime has been a solid performer in the past, and like I say, rather than get all techie and stuff, I know there's guys like Will Prowse. He does kind of solar stuff on YouTube. He's done a full teardown of this battery, ripped it apart. He's a top shelf guy when it comes to understanding solar technology and all that kind of stuff. Props up to Will in that regard. But he's ripped this battery apart and looked at the internals and kind of shown the quality that they put into this. So, I have no intention to kind of walk through all that stuff. He did a fantastic job in that regard. Mine will be more out in the field use. But generally speaking, when they ship these batteries out to you, they send them out where they're only 50 to 70% charged and that kind of stuff. They're partially charged, yeah? So I'm going to throw that onto a charger before I continue with the rest of the video, just to make sure that this thing's fully loaded up, and then I'll give you a quick show of the front of the battery, and I'll show you the charger I'm using, that kind of stuff. Then I'll hook it up, let a few hours pass until it's fully charged, and then we'll take it out in the field and start using it, yeah? Like I say, I just kind of shifted the camera back a little bit so you guys can see the face of it and all that happiness. It's got all the kind of basic stuff you'd see where, like I say, it's a key thing that it's a Group 24, so it's compatible to the Group 24 batteries, and it's the Bluetooth enabled and all that kind of stuff, right? And it's got the website, so you know where to look to if you wanted to go directly to the website and check that out. There's nothing on the sides of it, but I'll just flip over to the back, and all the kind of standard caution stuff, don't throw it in a fire, don't throw it in the ocean, don't spearfish it with, don't use your spear to just harpoon this thing to drag it back to you. Don't get it above 158 Fahrenheit or 70 Celsius, exposing metal terminals or connectors, just common sense stuff that goes with batteries, generally speaking. But they give, all the kind of disclaimer, don't throw it in the ocean, don't throw it in a fire, that kind of happiness, and then they've got videos for installation guide videos and all that kind of stuff. I'm assuming that's to do with connecting it to vehicles or other stuff. I know that these are supposedly compatible now that you're into a Type 24, right? They're supposedly compatible to some types of vehicles and all that kind of stuff for running. But one way or the other, all the basic kind of safety warning shenanigans that go on with batteries. But yeah, that's pretty well it. I mean, like I say, we are dealing with a battery, so there's not going to be too many bells and whistles. The main thing is you got your positive and your negative. Then you're going to want to run on those to hook up to things to kind of run devices and all that happiness, right? Pretty straightforward when it comes to batteries. But like I say, I'll just turn around and shift the cameras now, and I'll just show you the charger, because not all chargers, kind of state this, I guess, not all battery chargers work ideally with lithium iron phosphate batteries. Now, they have a different chemistry in them than say a sealed lead acid or an AGM and that kind of stuff. So their voltage profiles when it comes to charging are slightly different. You can use regular battery chargers to charge up lithium iron phosphate batteries, but you might not necessarily charge them up 100% and utilize the full capacity of the battery by using them, just because the voltage ranges and stuff are different, yeah? So it's preferred to use a lithium iron phosphate battery charger, specifically when it comes to this technology. And like I say, I'll just pull that in because I've got one of those that LiTime has given me in the past, and I'll just show you that and kind of give you the specs on that, so you get an idea of what to look for if you're wanting to get battery chargers that plug into the wall and that kind of stuff, yeah? Okay, and like I say, just pulled my battery charger in to get it in camera and that kind of stuff and show you its components. They're pretty elementary, pretty straightforward stuff. You've got one end turns around and plugs into the wall, you know, standard wall plug stuff. And then the other end just has some gator clips on it where you hook, you know, the red to the red, the black to the black, and let her start charging up. But I'll come in close on this and just show you the specs on the battery charger itself. So like I say, this is a Ampere Time is the old name that they used to go with, but LiTime was Ampere Time. They renamed and rebranded and that kind of stuff, yeah? So pay no attention to the fact that it says Ampere Time one way or the other. It's produced by the same company. But you can see here where it takes, you know, conventional wall power and all that kind of happiness. And then for the output voltage, you can see it's 14.6 volts at 10 amps. So it outputs at a slightly higher voltage than like, say, a sealed lead acid battery charger or that kind of thing, yeah? And, you know, it even explicitly tells you, you know, the red is the positive and the black is the negative and that kind of stuff. And then it goes through the different charging indicators, you know, whether it's in wait mode or charging mode, fully charged and all that kind of stuff, you know. Pretty well straightforward when it comes to all this stuff. You hook it up, it's a red light. When it's fully charged, you know, and everything's good to go, the light turns green, right? And that's just the nature of chargers. Like I say, really elementary. This one is a 10 ampere version, and I believe that LiTime has a 30 or 40 ampere version as well. Generally, when it comes to charging up these batteries, you know, one of these little units will take 10 hours roughly, you know, from if this battery was dead to fill it all the way up. And, you know, obviously if you switch up to higher amperage battery chargers, they'll charge the batteries faster. But generally speaking, what I find is, even though the batteries can take it for the longevity of the battery, I prefer running things at lower amperage. Now, don't get me wrong, if LiTime sends me over one of their faster chargers, I'll end up using it. Inevitably, that's just the nature of life. But, you know, I know it's gentler on the batteries to kind of charge it. They say that you can charge this at 100 amps, I do believe. Yeah, the maximum continuous charge and discharge current is 100 amps written on the battery. But for cycle life and longevity, generally speaking, I would want to turn around and charge it at a lower rate. I don't want to do the 100 amps max all the time. I know the battery can take it and handle it, but for cycle life, I want that to max out as long as I can. And if you're using lighter amp loads, it'll just be gentler on the batteries and everything's just kind of easier, if you will, yeah? So I'll go through a few more detailed specs about this battery, and then, like I say, I'll throw it on the charger and just get it going. Okay, so like I say, it's got the Bluetooth, so I'll be able to hook it up to my phone, and I believe I can turn it on and off and see what the state of charge of the battery and everything else is directly from my phone. So that's kind of cool. We'll go through all that in the video, yeah? It's got a low temperature cutoff, which I know, like I say, in other videos, this stuff has all been tested, so I know it's all, I've seen it from other people that I trust as sources, that all this stuff works and is accurate. But it's got a low temperature cutoff protection, so it secures your battery in cold weather. And so generally speaking, what ends up happening is if it gets below 0 degrees Celsius, so 32 Fahrenheit, it won't allow you to start sticking a charge into it, because that could damage this battery. It doesn't have low temperature heating and that kind of stuff. Some of these lithium iron phosphate batteries you can charge in colder weather because they have internal heaters and stuff built into it. This doesn't have that, but you can discharge these batteries down below 0. You just can't charge them back up without causing damage to them. So that is one of the things to be mindful of. If you're in really cold environments where you know it's getting below freezing on a regular basis, you might want to look at heated versions of these batteries, which are a little more expensive, but it allows you to reach into colder environments and charge and discharge and all that kind of stuff without issue, yeah? But it's got LiTime's latest BMS into it. You know, it's got over 20 different protections and warnings and all that kind of stuff. It really, you know, if you hook up too big of a load to it, it'll automatically shut off. If you try to run it when it's too cold or too hot, it turns itself off. It protects itself, you know, so it doesn't do damage to the battery in a pretty wide, you know, a plethora of range of things. So all the safety stuff is built into it, you know, for things like automatic overload protection, recovery, no user intervention required. It'll just turn on and off and all that kind of stuff on its own accord. It's using grade A cells that are rated at 4,000 plus cycles at 100% depth of discharge. So what that means really is for the next 11 years pretty well, I could use this battery from full to dead and cycle it through once a day every day for the next 11 years. And this battery is still going to pretty well be as good as it was the day I bought it. You know, and it's not that this battery is going to die afterwards. They have rating on life cycles of batteries where they say once the battery starts losing capacity through time, once it gets down to about 80%, then it's considered that's where their rating kind of threshold sits at. So this thing's rated at 100% over 11-year period of daily use, you know, if you're doing one cycle per day kind of thing. So, you know, if you're looking after this thing and you're not fully draining it from, you know, full to dead all the time and all that kind of stuff, this battery could easily last you like 15, 20 years, potentially even longer if you're being gentle with it and you're not, you know, pushing it to its edge all the time. So, you know, when it comes to longevity of this technology, the shelf life will probably kill this battery before the cycle life will. And that's really just the nature of batteries themselves. Like I say, it has a peak capacity of 1,280 watt hours of energy, you know, which is a substantial amount. It's got this is a promising feature. It's got 500 amp 1 second peak discharge current. So if you hammered this battery really hard with just a massive load, it can take it for 1 second before it'll shut down and stuff. So it's good in that regard, yeah. And like I say, it's a group 24 battery size, so it's compatible. When it comes to batteries, they have, you know, 24 and, you know, other different sizes that exist in the actual physical size of the battery. So when it comes to installing it in kind of standard things, you know, they have a size rating, a type rating, if you will. And this is a type 24. So when it comes to the maximum amount you can kind of expand these batteries out now, you can go up to a max of 20.48 kilowatt hours expandable. So what that means is I can connect 4 of these in parallel to each other where I'm hooking, you know, positive to positive to positive, if you will. And then you can also hook it up with 4 in series. So, you know, you can do a 4 parallel, 4 series configuration. That's, you know, when you're hooking this negative onto the next battery's positive and driving up the voltage and that kind of stuff. But in my perspective, you're better off to just go with the larger batteries if you're wanting to daisy chain them that way. But it is capable of handling 4 connections in parallel and 4 in series, just so you're aware. So, you know, when it comes to the efficiency of the charging and all that kind of stuff, lithium iron phosphate is really, really good when it comes to the energy you put into it is the energy you get out. You know, when you're charging up things like sealed lead acid and that kind of stuff, you're not getting out 100% of the energy that you put into it. There's losses that exist in the system. Whereas with lithium iron phosphate technology, the losses are really minimal. You're talking like maybe 1%, 2% at best, right? So if you stick in 1,000 watts, you're pretty well getting 1,000 watts back out. That's just not the case with things like sealed lead acid and that kind of stuff. You know, and the fact that you can charge and discharge these 100% from full to dead without causing the battery any damage at all makes lithium iron phosphate, in my perspective, far better than anything I've ever seen in sealed lead acid. You know, generally speaking with sealed lead acid, you're only wanting to discharge it up to about 50% without causing damage to the battery. You know, so even if it was rated at 100 ampere hour, you're only getting 50 ampere hours of battery power out of it, you know, without causing damage and shortening the longevity of the battery and stuff. Whereas lithium iron phosphate just doesn't have all those kinds of problems, yeah? So like I say, I know I'm rambling. I'll stop, I'll hook this onto the charger, and then I'll cut back when we're ready to start to take this thing out in the field and use it, yeah? And we'll start to put a good solid test to, you know, what can I do with this thing when I'm out in the backcountry, yeah? So like I say, really straightforward, just plug the charger into the wall. And because I'm not hooked up to the battery or anything, I see the green light going, yeah? And I'm just going to hook on to my negative terminal, black to black. I'll make sure those are in enough, yeah? Hook on that black to black. Hook that on red. And you can see, I don't know if the camera picked that up, the red light on the back of the charger kicked in, lets me know this is taking a charge. So when this is fully charged, that'll kick back to green, right? Really elementary, nothing to it. So one way or the other, I've got to let this sit and charge until it's full, and then we'll start to get at it, yeah? All right, well, off camera, I went to the Google Play, went to LiTime, downloaded their app, I didn't show that in the video because it's pretty straightforward downloading an app to your device, right? But, you know, and I didn't need you guys seeing all the access codes and everything getting into Life. So one way or the other, got that stuff set up. It was a little bit convoluted, not really the most elegant. I don't like how you have to force register and other things and it connects to the web and stuff, but one way or the other, we'll show the example of the Bluetooth stuff. But I just wanted to stop and kind of show these two batteries now side by each, yeah? So this is one I reviewed previously. This is the mini version that they sent over to me a month or two, maybe 3 months ago. And then this is the new one they sent over with all the Bluetooth enabled stuff, yeah? And I just wanted to show kind of a size comparison between the mini and that one. So to give you an idea, the mini is about a 1/4 inch taller, and I'll try to line those up and see if I can get that justifiably on camera, but I'll just come in and show you of, you know, it's maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches narrower, to give you an idea, right? That, other than that, they have the same capacity and all that kind of stuff, you know, within reason. And I'll stop and I'll shift camera angles now and I'll show you just some of the screens you see in the app and stuff on my cell phone, yeah? So, but I just thought I'd kind of throw this in because it was like, well, I've got both of these batteries now. I might as well show the difference between them. The mini's a little bit smaller, a little bit taller, you know, a little thinner, that kind of thing, right? But generally speaking, they both have the same capacity, but I think this one has a larger surge amps and that kind of stuff. Like this one can reach up to 500 amps, right? For a second before it's, you know, and it'll kick in and surge protect it and all that stuff. So I think this one's just got a better BMS into it, even though the one I found, if you go back and watch the review I did on this mini, the mini was top shelf. I was really impressed with it. But one way or the other, I think this one has a better BMS in it now, you know, so... But like I say, I'll shift camera angles and we'll just show you some of the details on the app so you guys can get an idea of kind of what you'd expect to see, yeah? Okay, so this is kind of the main screen that you see when you're wanting to look at the battery details. So it shows me like a state of charge here. I can see that I've got 58%. And it even tells me that I've got estimated 4.2 hours until I'm fully charged. So I know I've got a bit for, like I say, the charging to happen and all that kind of happiness. It tells me, you know, the power flow in watts, which is kind of handy. Come in a little closer for that for you. So, and this is, like I say, I've just got the charger plugged in the wall, right? It tells me how many amps are going in, what the power is going in, what the voltage is sitting at. Right now I'm sitting at 58 ampere hour capacity. Now it's got balancing because there's different individual cells that exist. And but it'll let you know kind of the balancings and stuff, right? So I know some people obsessed with all that kind of stuff. Generally speaking, I let the batteries just do what batteries do when it comes to all that kind of stuff. But you can go in and look at the different cells. You can see everything's fine, it's all functioning, you know, as expected and that kind of stuff. And then we'll kick into the BMS. Yeah, the BMS is all normal. So it's kind of cool that it has that kind of stuff built into it. And I like the fact that without having any additional components now, I can see exactly what the state of the charge of the battery is and all that kind of stuff at a distance, right? So it's not super complicated or anything. I think some of the features, it's a little unnecessary for them to get emails and, you know, oh, you get access codes and everything else to log in so that there's, I mean, it's a Bluetooth device to a battery. They could probably simplify that because my concern will be really when I go off grid and I'm nowhere near, you know, having telephone signal, you know, am I going to be able to still connect and that kind of stuff, right? So I'll probably end up checking that when we go out into the field later on because it's one of those things where I'll be off internet access, so I'll kill my roaming and you know, my data, if you will, and I'll see if this thing still functions and works just through the Bluetooth, or if it's mandatory that I have to be, you know, connected to the internet for this to fully function. So that'll be kind of a concern of mine, generally speaking, if it doesn't work. But other than that, it's kind of handy. I like the reality that that it has all that kind of stuff built into it. And then when it comes to, you know, I can turn around and kill the battery, the power in the battery itself. So, you know, I can turn around and power off the battery, so it's disabled, if you will. So I really like that reality where if I'm at camp and I want to shut down something that's running off those batteries, I can just drop the power to the battery directly from my phone and have it just kill that all immediately. So, and we'll do examples of that once we're out in the field, yeah? But either way, kind of cool, like I say, for such a simple thing. it's pretty cool in the regards of now I can see what the state of charge of the battery is, and you can put little icons against the individual batteries you have. So I just chose a golf cart because this will be for mobile setups for me, but if you had ones running in your house and you had ones running for, say, a wheelchair and all sorts of things, you can switch the different icons so you know which battery is connected to what, you know, setup that you've got in your living situation. And you can easily just add in more additional batteries and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of cool in that regard. And I like how even back on this screen, it'll tell me the state of the charge of the battery individual. So if I had, multiple batteries that were set up across my, off-grid system where, running different things, I could see what each one of those batteries were at just at a glance. So that's kind of handy in that regard. And if I want to get the specifics of exactly how much load is being drawn or being charged into those batteries, all in all, this little app seems half decent. I just don't like the amount of logging in and stuff that you have to go through to get there. It was a little unfortunate. And like I say, we'll find out when we go off grid. But either way, I'll stop. Like I say, it tells me now I got 4.2 hours of just letting this thing charge. And then I'll kick over to the next scenes of the video once that's full, yeah? Alright, fellow YouTubers, so a few hours have passed now. I'm getting to the point where it's at 99% state of charge, and you can see the balance is starting to kind of just flash or throb or however you want to see that. But when I click on that, you can see it automatically starts balancing the cells. So it does all that for you. All that stuff, some people, they get all picky about wanting to balance their cells out and stuff, but the battery management system, the BMS, it'll do all that for you near the end, yeah? So, and as you can see, the voltage on the battery gets a little higher than a normal sealed lead acid or any of that. Like we're up to 14.2. That should reach 14.4 when it starts to peak out. But I'm already seeing now the amount of watts that it's throwing into the battery has started to drop in the amps and all that kind of stuff. And it's been sitting at 99 ampere hours for a while. So I'm of the belief of it actually goes above 100 ampere hours for the capacity of this battery. I didn't go through the whole formal test of it, but I'm highly suspicious that this is actually holding more than 100 ampere hours. One way or the other, though. Like I say, it'll go through the balancing, and then when you come and look at the cells, yeah, the cells are all normal still and all that kind of stuff. I think one of the things I didn't show was there's some additional info that exists here. Then you can go into your settings and adjust this to show you what the temperature of the battery is. I've got mine set in Fahrenheit, but you could set it in Celsius and all that kind of stuff. But one of the cool things I like is it's got the number of cycles that you've run. It'll remember and hold that, And when it comes to being able to go and adjust your settings, I'll just kick over to here, I think. Hold on. Can't remember exactly where I saw that, but here, I think. I can't remember exactly where it is. Somewhere in the app, you can go and adjust whether it's in English or whether it's Spanish or French or whatever, right? But one way or the other, like I say, we're almost there. As soon as this hits 100%, I'm going to grab my gear and throw it into a cart. I've got that electric powered cart, if you watch previous videos of mine. I'm going to haul this out in the field and kind of do a different type of test on this. And yeah, there we go, 100%. Oh, sweet. Managed to catch that on camera. So it's all balanced. It only stopped at 14.2 volts. And some of the lithium iron phosphates I've had go up to 14.4. But it's good that you kind of got to see the finished result of the charge and all that kind of happiness. And right now I'm sitting, it says 75.2. That's about 21, 22 degrees Celsius. So, room temperature, nothing to worry about when it comes to getting warm or any of that business. But either way, there you have it. The app showing me that we're fully ready to go. So let's kick it out into the field and start to use this bad boy. Okay there, fellow YouTubers. So I've loaded up my trusty cart here with a few items so we can just roll up to, a field that's close by in the area, just so I can show you kind of an example of how I want to test this battery. I'm not just going to get out there with gauges and stuff. As I've stated in previous videos, I always like to just field test this stuff and see what its performance is just in the real world, separate from reading stats out of a book, right? So I've got my battery, I've got an inverter, some spices, some chicken, I've got an electric barbecue and that kind of stuff. So, well, like I say, we'll take this out into the field and we'll get that chicken cooking, and we'll see if we can fully cook off that chicken using a single charge off this battery, yeah? Okay, so I've arrived at the local field that's close by, you know, enjoying a nice sunny day. I'm going to pull out a few of the components that I got sitting in this crate and walk you through kind of my process of getting it set up so that I'm ready to start cooking. And then, like I say, we'll see if we can successfully cook off. I think I got 10 pieces of chicken there. So we'll see if we can cook that all off, fully cooked under a single charge of this battery, yes? Okay, so I'll sit on this side. Just some kind of add of the camera so you guys can easily see what I've got going on here, and I'll just kind of break down a little bit of what I'm connecting together, just so I go through every detail and, you know, kind of granular level detail. So I've just got a screwdriver so I can tighten up the bolts on the battery. Here I've got a resistor, and here I've got an inverter that I'm going to be connecting up to the battery. So it's really simple. The inverter has, just popping off the little caps, the inverter has a positive and a negative that come off, and I'm just going to simply turn around and connect the negative up to the negative on the battery. And I want to make sure that my connections are really good and solid here. I'm running a fairly significant amount of amps. You know, we're going to be talking that we're really pushing this battery to its limits of output, if you will. The claim on the battery is that it can handle the continuous max discharge current of 100 amps. So we're going to be right up close to that, but I'm just going to use my screwdriver to make sure that I've really tightened down on that terminal so that it's on there really firm. No, it's not going anywhere. In fact, I'm just going to loosen it back off just a little bit. I'll turn it so it's facing out, just so if there's any heat that's coming off, it's not coming across the battery. And then the same on the positive side, where I'm just going to kind of connect it and firmly brace it down. But before I do that, I'm going to take this resistor, I'm going to touch it to the positive of the inverter, and I'm going to touch the other end of this wire onto the positive of the battery. And what I'm doing here is there's capacitors that exist within this battery that'll soak up a whole bunch of energy really quickly. And if you just touch a large inverter like I have here up to a battery, the rush of current into the capacitors sitting inside this inverter can cause really big sparks. So I've charged it up now, and in fact I'll just turn that off. So, and it only takes a second, like I say, it only takes a second to turn around and kind of touch with the resistor in line here, yeah? So it only takes a second to kind of touch that to let some of the power flow and kind of pre-charge the capacitor sitting inside this inverter, just to avoid any sparks that would happen. You know, you never want to damage your equipment, right, when you're out in the field especially. So like I say, kind of just let that resistor, and the resistor, all it does is kind of, it slows down the amount of power that would rush from the battery into the inverter. So it kind of slows it down to avoid any sparks. And the thinking really is, you might hear kids in the background. I'm at a park, so you're going to have noise, but such is life, right? But the thinking really now is, when I go to touch this, there was no spark, because the capacitors that were sitting inside this battery already kind of came up the voltage, if you will. And if you connected anything above about, I want to say about a 1500 watt inverter or so, if you connect that onto a battery, you'd run the risk of throwing sparks, which could damage the terminal bolts on your battery, or it could damage the wiring on your inverter and all that kind of stuff. So in order to avoid that, using the resistor as a kind of preload, if you will, of this inverter, to me is just the prudent thing to do. But I'm going to do the same as I did on the negative now. I'm really going to just tighten that right down so it's a good firm connection, and make sure that, you know, that's on there. Like I say, when you're running 100 amps, you know, up into that, they can generate a lot of heat. And if these terminal connections aren't really firmly connected, you know, you can end up creating heat and potentially melt wires or melt batteries and all that kind of stuff. Bad things can happen. So I just want to kind of re-emphasize the fact of, you know, yes, you want to really make sure these connections are on there solid, yeah? So, and in fact, that screwdriver is just a little big. So I'll just pop my multi-tool, because, you know, I always have the trusty multi-tool in the field. And I think I've got a little screwdriver on there that might fit into the better. Just make sure that's on there as tight as can be. There we go. Okay, so it's really simple. I now have the battery hooked up to the inverter, so we're ready to now produce the equivalent of like electricity you'd have at home. Yeah, so I've got AC out here. I'll switch the camera angles, so instead of going off of just 12-volt battery DC power, we're now going to be going off of the same as you plug in your wall at home, of AC power. So I'll do a close-up and just show you kind of the terminals, and then we'll move on with the rest of it. Yeah, but really simple. You just connect the inverter to the battery. You know, I do the resistor step to stop any sparks. So like I say, just kind of shift camera angles, give you a better view of things. So I'm just going to turn this inverter back on again. Get my beep, lets me know I'm connected to the battery. That's all good in that regard. And as you can see now, I've got 3 AC outs here, so I can start plugging in normal stuff like I'd plug in at home. Yeah, I've got some USB and other stuff exist on there, but you know, I won't focus on the inverter. I'm just using it as part of the example to show the ability of the battery, right? So I'll shift camera angles now and grab my little grill and kind of talk a few details about that. We'll plug it in and start getting this chicken cooking. All right, so I'll show you this little unit that I have. I've had this forever and a day. This is like an electric grill, an electric barbecue, if you will. And on the component, it says it's about 1,000 watts. And it's just standard, you know, AC plug stuff. So, you know, pretty basic. And I've used this lots in the past at home and out in the field and that kind of stuff. So I know it works without issue, but generally speaking, what I find is it runs a little bit more than 1,000. It's closer to 1,200 watts, I find, generally speaking. And it really depends on, you know, the weather and how warm or cold it is and that kind of stuff too. But either way, it should push this battery now right up to around the 100 amps that this battery claims it can run continuous for. Yeah, so I'm going to plug this in. We're going to preheat it a little bit and then get this chicken on the grill. So like I say, it's real simple, just because this is like any device you plug in at home. I just plug this into the AC, and I'll just pull out my phone here and kind of show you the kind of draw. See if I can catch it on the camera. Okay, hold on. I know the bright lights and that kind of stuff on the camera doesn't always give it the most justice, and hopefully this is working okay, but you can see I'm pulling about 1,260 watts worth of power here. Hopefully the camera's seeing that. And I'm pulling 97.8, 97.5 amps or so, give and take, at a voltage of 12.8 volt. So I'm running this battery pretty close to the 100 amps continuous, which is the maximum amount that's claimed that it can run. Yeah, so and I'm expecting this to run for about an hour or so. So I'm not going to piss around. I'm just going to turn around and pull that chicken out. So I'm going to cut my camera here, staring at this little you know, the power consumption app, and we're going to actually start getting the chicken ready to go and onto the grill, so we're not wasting the electricity. Yeah, and like I say, if you end up hearing noise in the background, such as life, this area gets pretty busy. It's about I don't know, 25-30 degrees Celsius, so I'm not sure exactly what that is in Fahrenheit. 80-90 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's a nice sunny day. There's going to be lots of people out, but one way or the other, just want to start getting this chicken on the grill as quickly as I can, because like I say, when it comes to battery power, you know, you don't want to be wasting it as much as possible. Yeah, so one way or the other, we'll just get all these legs into the heat, and it doesn't take very long for this grill to get kind of warmed up and stuff. I'll put some salt and pepper on the chicken and all that kind of happiness, just to, you know, flavor it up the way I like it. But I wanted to show kind of the full capacity of, can I turn around and cook off this much meat off of a single charge of a battery, right? So, you know, we'll have to see as we go through this test to see if the single battery can handle it or not. And one way or the other, I've got that on. I'll shift camera angles. I'm just going to put some spices and that kind of stuff on it, and then I'll go back to the app and we'll see the power draw and stuff, and then we'll walk through time to see, you know, what the state of the charge of the battery is, and can we successfully get this fully cooked. Yes. All right, so like I say, it's been a couple minutes. Kind of did off the one side of the chicken just to get the seasoning onto it, and I'm just going to flip them all over to get the other side. I mean, this is only just getting, it's only just getting going now. I could hear my inverter fan kicked on. Lets me know that the inverter is, you know, doing its job, working hard and all that happiness. And like I say, we're running about 98 amps pulling off that battery. So we're really kind of pushing it to, you know, the outer edge of what the battery is supposed to be able to safely run at a continuous, you know, level. And I'm just putting on some seasoning salt. I know it's a bit of a mess, one of the joys of working outside, right? But I'm not picky when it comes to this stuff. And then I'm using a bit of roasted garlic and red peppers. Kind of give it some additional flavor as we go. And I'll be throwing some barbecue sauce on near the end, but just kind of wait for that. Either way, like I say, I'm there in that regard. I'll see if I can adjust the brightness on my camera so that you guys can see that the app screen a little better. So let me see what I can do there, and I'll give you the best option I can, but I'll show you the power consumption and all that kind of stuff off the camera. But either way, this chicken's been on there for, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes now, right? So, and we'll just walk through the process of cooking it and see if the battery dies before it's fully cooked. So yeah, I don't know if I can get the battery brightness any brighter on my phone. Like I say, we're right in the middle of a full sunny day, but either way, I'm pulling 1,260 watts worth of power, so 98.5 amps, 99 amps. And like I say, that's at the 12.8 voltage. That's what's coming off the battery right now. And it says I've got about 84% left, so 84 ampere hours that are still in the tank. And it all seems to be running without issue. Like I say, when it comes to the inverter, it's designed that it can handle up to 2,000 watts, so it can easily handle this load. And I'll see if, like I say, I know it just really doesn't look like it's catching it on the camera. It's just so bright out here today, but yeah, one way or the other, that's what it is. We're running about 1,200 and... Oh. Yeah, the fan just cut off on the inverter, so, but we're still drawing the 98.8 amps. And I'll flip the chicken as we go and that kind of happiness, and you guys can see it in this process, but we should be able to have this fully cooked off before this battery is fully discharged. That's what I'm expecting, yes? Alright, so a few more minutes pass. I'm just going to flip the chicken again, and I'm hearing the fan on the inverter kicking in and out, so it's not being pushed to its limit by any means, but I can see the chicken's already starting to get a little bit of darkening of it. I'm not getting the full grill marks on it yet, but I've also got my rack that it's on sitting raised a little so that I don't cook the chicken too quickly and burn it or any of that business. I find when I'm cooking steaks, I can flip this rack over the other way and cook it really close to the heat, and it doesn't bother it as bad. Whereas with the chicken, I like to have it just kind of up a little further just so I don't scorch my chicken, but cook it at a slightly lower temp, if you will. And just want to make sure everything's kind of sitting right underneath the elements that are, that electric element. So it's good and centered in that regard, and like I say, I'll kick back in a few minutes when I flip it again and you guys can see the progress. Okay, and I just kind of shift camera angles and just kind of talk about, you're going to find the cables connecting on your battery, they'll start to warm up fairly significantly just because you have 100 amps flowing out of this battery. It's a substantial amount of power. And I know that it's a nice hot sunny day, so it's going to warm up the battery either way, but I can feel that I can still touch this and I'm not burning myself in any way, so this is a good sign. It is getting hot on this terminal. I can definitely feel it. The negatives warm too, but the positives definitely getting hot to the touch in that regard. So, but like I say, we're pushing this battery now right up to what the rated capacity is. I'll shift camera angles and just show you the top of the battery again so you can see clearly of, we're running at 98 amps and this thing's wanting 100 amps continuous, right? So, like I say, we're pushing this battery right to its full capacity, and I figure this chicken should take about an hour to cook, so that should drain this battery down to pretty well empty, and that'll, without getting into meters and everything else, gauging all the amps that I'm pulling and all that kind of stuff, that'll give me an idea of, is this battery really have the 100 ampere hour capacity that they state or not, right? I know that there's other people have done reviews on this battery and they've all said that, yeah, it holds over 100 ampere hours, so I have confidence that that is the case, and hence I'm taking the chance of cooking off a bunch of chicken that might not fully cook, right? But like I say, I'll shift camera angles and I'll just show you the details on that battery one more time, and then we'll get back to flipping the chicken. So, and as you can see here, the nominal voltage of 12.8 volts, rated capacity is the 100 ampere hours, rated energy 1,280 watt hours, the charging voltage, but it's right here. This maximum continuous charge and discharge current is rated at the 100 amps. So you know, that's the max continuous output of 1280 watts. That's right just above where this grill is at. So a single battery, you know, pulling at pretty well 100% of its ability should be able to run this grill for a 1 hour period without any issue, yeah? And time will tell. Okay, so I'm at the 71% mark on the battery. So, you know, we've used about 30% of the battery so far, and I'm at the point where I'm just gonna give it another flip with the chicken, kind of see if we're starting to get some browning. I'm hearing lots of sizzling starting to happen. Hopefully the camera's picking that up. And like I say, this grill isn't super fast. It's, you know, you're not going to cook it from raw to fully cooked in 15-20 minutes. It's a little bit slower because I'm dealing with, you know, a low powered electric grill, if you will. But it's more of just the transitioning the technologies over to being purely electric, right? And I was going to bring out a solar panel and charge controller and all that kind of stuff and show that, you know, charging the battery at the same time, but I thought that would just take away from the test of the video and kind of distract from what the real objective is, and that is testing this battery. So just kind of centering all my chicken a little better so I know that it's really getting good heat. And, in fact, I'm going to switch that one that way, just so I can kind of tuck it all together. And as you can see, we got 2, 4, 6, 8, well, 10 pieces of chicken, so half decent amount, right, when it comes to being able to cook this all just off of a single battery. But one way or the other, it's not too exciting just watching chicken cook, you know, but as it starts to brown further and stuff, I'll show that later. But I'm just gonna let it cook now for a little bit, yeah. I figured I kind of stop and shift the camera back and show you guys kind of, you know, this is really a small setup, you know. If I had a 200 watt solar panel and a solar charge controller hooked up, I'd be able to keep that battery, you know, recharged indefinitely over the years moving through time and be able to use this over and over again. I could easily backpack in all of these things, or with the conveyance of something like the electric cart that I have here, I could easily turn around and move this into an off-grid environment. So, you know, when it comes to, if you wanted to kind of get off-grid power happening in a cabin or something, to be able to get to the point where you're producing enough to cook food occasionally and that kind of thing, you can see this isn't a large setup, yeah. All right, well, we're getting close. We're at 51% of the battery left, and the chicken's definitely starting to pop and fizzle and do all the good stuff that it needs to do as it's cooking, so that's always a good sign, right? I'm just gonna give it a flip now, and you can see it's definitely substantially starting to darken up. Hopefully you can see that on the camera, all right, where I'm getting a lot more browning on the chicken. I'm starting to see some grill marks and that kind of stuff, so always a good sign. And my thinking really is when I get close to about 15-20% of the battery left, then I'll apply my barbecue sauce and stuff just to flash it with a bit of heat. But seems to be a little bit cooler on that side. I'm not getting quite the browning. I'll just shift the camera angle here and see if you guys can get a good look at that. You can see that chicken's starting to brown up nicely, yeah? So either way, we're at about the halfway point of this battery, and we're already getting to this level with the chicken. And you know, with chicken, I always never want to take any chances at all when it comes to stuff. I want to have it that you know, my chicken's thoroughly cooked. So, you know, if it takes running this all the way to 0 on the battery, such is life, right? When it comes to the battery itself, you know, it's performed flawlessly. It feels warm, but it's not enough where it's burning my hand or anything, you know. It's that terminal is definitely hot when it comes to the touch of it, you know. And when it comes to everything, because I'm running these higher amps, at the end of it, and when I go to detach all the stuff, I'm gonna let all that cool down for a minute so the temperature drops off it before I detach my inverter and all that kind of stuff, right? You know, the one way or the other, when you're running 100 amps across batteries, you're gonna get higher temps. Just be aware of that kind of stuff, right? It's the nature of things. That's why a lot of people switch up to 48 volt systems and, you know, higher voltage systems, just so that they're not running the amps, because that's where the heat is. It's in the amps, right? But as you can see, it's browning nicely. Doing everything I wanted to. Either way, we'll just let it keep cooking. Yep. All right, so I'm getting down to about a third way mark. Let's see if I can hold it there. Like I say, I don't know how much the camera's picking that up, but I'm at 34% of the charge remaining, and I can see that it's jumped up to 1300 watts, so I'm a little over 100 amps now. I'm running 102.8 and 103 up and around there, and the voltage has dropped a little bit on the battery. You know, it's one of those things where in order for it to keep performing, it's just increased the amps a little bit as the voltage has dropped. Yeah, but one way or the other, I'm pleased at this point in time. I'm going to give it another flip. Like I say, we still got a third of the battery left, and we're seeing some pretty solid browning on that chicken, so always a good sign. I'm going to kind of position some of the chicken that looks like it's, you know, cooking really well. I'm going to shift it a little bit and just move things around to make sure that all the chicken gets good shots of heat as we go, and trying to roll out to any of the, you know, sides that look like they're needing more heat and stuff. I'll start to shift and kind of roll the chicken, you know, just like you would when you're cooking normally, right? Want to make sure everything is really just cooked to perfection in that regard. But I'm pleased with everything I'm seeing so far, and like I say, I know I got about a third of the battery left, so, but I'm definitely getting tons of hissing and popping and all that kind of happiness coming out. That one piece there looks pretty light, so I might shift that. You know, it's all easy enough. Just put that over to this side, because the piece that was there looked like it was getting some pretty solid heat, so I'm just kind of set it into the center as best I can. And really, you know, just like you would be cooking at home, just kind of dawdling with it, right? I think that side looks a little undercooked, so I'll roll it over and make sure that gets a good shot of heat. Oh, aye. The joys of cooking in the field. Get the leaf covered chicken, or grass covered chicken. Such is life. So either way, just continue letting this cook. We'll throw the barbecue sauce on a little bit. Yep. All right, well, we're getting down to 19% left on the battery, but the chicken looks like it's starting to brown up fairly significantly at this point. So I'm going to start getting some barbecue sauce on these bad boys. And I only just flipped them before I turned the camera on for this scene, so I know they're nice and hot for this side. Just give them a good coating as best I can. But I'm pleased the battery's been performing as expected. It doesn't, you know, I was a little bit suspect that it would have the full ampere hours as rated, because, you know, I've dealt with sealed lead acid and stuff in the past, but generally speaking, I've found lithium iron phosphate batteries, when they say 100 ampere hours, I normally find 9 times out of 10 it's spot on, actually. So, but the thinking really is, like I say, I'm just going to turn around and flip this chicken, sauce up the other side, and I'll run the battery right until it's dead, just to make sure that I get, you know, good caramelization with the barbecue sauce and all that happiness, right? Like I say, put a shot on the other side of the chicken now. I like lots of barbecue sauce in my chicken. I mean, who doesn't, right? It's all part of healthy living at its finest. When you're the age I am, it just starts to not matter so much whether you're super healthy or not. You know, you ain't got much time left. And like I say, my thinking really now is I'm just gonna keep flipping this chicken every couple minutes now until I run out of battery power, and I'll cut back and show you that. Of right now the battery's probably sitting about 17-18%, so it gives me enough time to do the caramelization that I need and all that kind of stuff, right? But as I see it, it's already been a successful mission. This chicken's pretty well there. So like I say, I'll just flip it a couple more times and we'll have fully cooked chicken ready to roll. And like I say, I'm down to the last 10% now, and the caramelization is starting to happen from the barbecue sauce and stuff, so I'll flip it another couple, you know, 1 or 2 more times as we move through the next like 5-10 minutes or so, and then we should be ready. So I'm down to the last 5% now, and it's run pretty steady 1300 watts to run this unit. Now right now I'm sitting at 105.6 amps because the voltage has dropped to 12.3 volts. So it's one of those things though where, you know, my chicken's fully cooked and the terminals will start running a little hotter on the battery, because as this voltage drops, in order for the inverter to get the power it needs, it has to increase the amps, because volts times amps equals watts. Yeah, so one way or the other, it's running a little above what the rated amount is at 108 watts now, or sorry, 108.7 amps now. So, you know, we're definitely pushing this battery right to its extreme, and it lights up and tells you, you know, it starts turning red and tells you I'm at 4%. I'll give it one more flip and then we'll show you. I'll grab one of the bigger pieces here, you know, the biggest one in there probably, and I'll grab one of those and we'll crack it open and show you that it's fully cooked and all that kind of happiness. Yeah, and then I'll talk further about kind of, you know, recharging this and stuff through time. And as you can see, it's dropped to 3. Yeah, so I'll flip it one more time and then we'll see this cooked. All right, so we're down to 1%. The inverter is starting to bark at me now that the voltage on the battery is dropping too low, and it's sending, you know, alerts, if you will, and I'll let it run right to oblivion. Just wanted to see that, yeah, it'll draw the full 100 ampere hours out of this battery, and this isn't doing any damage to this battery. Like I say, we're pretty well there now, right? So in order to just stop the annoying beep, if you will, the voltage on the battery has dropped too low for the inverter to want to even pull power from it anymore. But solid performance. Like I say, there's no harm to this battery. If that was a sealed lead acid battery, you wouldn't want to draw it down below about 50% discharge. There's a zero harm to this battery. We're bringing it down to 0%, and then I'll charge it back up, you know, when I get back to the house, kind of thing. So I was able to use a full 1,280 watts. And I've been out here for about an hour, so, you know, to run it as we've done, and to me that battery meets the specs, and for, you know, real world use, it does exactly as they claimed. I'm pleased this battery's performed well. So I'll stop, I'll grab the biggest piece of chicken. I think that one's the biggest one, well, maybe that one. I'll grab the biggest piece of chicken, use my tongs to rip it open and show you that, you know, it's good and fully cooked on the inside and all that happiness too. Yeah, all right, so I'll give you a nice kind of close up to see here. I mean, who doesn't want to eat that piece of chicken, right? Just looks fantabulous. Like I say, that's one of the biggest ones I had sitting on there, so I'll just throw it into this little dish, because it's not just called the hand off me, and I'll rip into it to show you that it's 100% cooked. Hopefully you can see there's zero blood or any of that kind of stuff in there. That's cooked right into the bone. So I'm not worried about eating that in any way, shape, or form. I'll try a little bite off it, just tell you how it is, because, you know, inquiring minds need to know. Oh man, just absolutely delicious. So there you have it. It is possible. Oh god, is that good. It is possible to turn around and use some, you know, battery power to cook off. I mean, let's face it, that was 10 pieces of chicken, you know, drumsticks, if you will. That's a significant amount of food. You could easily feed 4 or 5 people having that as being part of the main meal, if you will, right? So, and the one nice part is, if I had, say, a 200 watt solar panel running through an MPPT charge controller, solar charge controller, this battery can be filled up from dead to full, you know, in say 8 or 10 hours of sunshine. So this is one of those things where, and I could use this battery for the next 10-15 years, cycling it at these heavy loads like I'm doing here. You know, obviously you wouldn't want to push it to the max every single day, because, you know, you're not going to be cooking off 10 pieces of chicken every day. But if you were doing off-grid, you know, kind of cabin cooking and that kind of stuff, this type of stuff can become invaluable. And relying on a solid battery like the LiTime, you know, I mean, you definitely want to go with lithium iron phosphate if you're going off-grid and that kind of stuff. So, but I'll pan back over to the battery and kind of feel the terminals and that kind of stuff, yeah, and just give you kind of feedback of, you know, the performance that I saw. All right, like I say, I feel like this was an absolute push of this battery, but as hard as I would realistically, responsibly want to push it, you know. I could obviously kind of push it further. I've got, you know, microwaves and other things I could hook up to this just to really kind of push it to the extreme, but I wanted to test really the continuous power at 100 amps, you know, coming off this battery. And like I say, I've been out here for an hour and fully cooked off my chicken, all off of this single battery. It has been a solid performer, and I really love the reality that it's simple, where in the app that Well, I've shut the app down, but it's I really love the reality that in the app, just from the battery itself, it'll tell me how many watts it's drawing and that kind of stuff, you know, without me having to bring along additional equipment to see what the amps and watts are and all that kind of happiness, you know. It allows it that when you're doing off-grid stuff like this, you know, that I can turn off the battery if I wanted to, you know, remotely, if I was on the other side of camp or something. You know, the fact that I can monitor my cooking and ensure that it's all happening, you know, at a distance using this Bluetooth. To me, it definitely, the Bluetooth does serve purpose. You know, I know to some people it seems a little gimmicky that I can connect to my battery and it'll tell me, but I tried to really show it through this example of that Bluetooth ability gives me details of exactly what's happening with this battery at distance. You know, obviously you're not miles away, but if I'm in a camp and I'm cooking, you know, inside my ice shelter or something, I've got this setup going. You know, I can be out processing wood and just keep an eye on my meal and how the battery's performing as it's cooking my meal as I move through time. That to me has a value. You know, when it comes to the other LiTime product, they sent me the Mini before, and that was a fantastic product. I got that up to the point where I ran a microwave, 1800 watts I think it was, for a good 5 minutes, and it performed solid. And yet again, this battery is a top shelf performer. And like I say, I know that I can use this daily, you know, doing the kind of stuff I just showed in the example today for like the next 10 years, probably 15, you know, of when they say the life cycle of the battery, you know, they're only talking that the capacity of the battery at the end of, you know, the cycles that they rate and stuff will have 80% capacity. This battery is still absolutely a usable piece of equipment, even if it only has 80% capacitance, and they're talking for, you know, 10 years down the road after daily use. So to me, these types of batteries, I mean, they're just unmatched. The lithium iron phosphate are the way to go, and as far as I know it to be, LiTime, I was talking to my connection over there, and they're doing a big sale right now. So, you know, as it goes for the date of this video being produced, we're in early July of 2024, and I know YouTube's kind of time sensitive when it comes to stuff. So, you know, if you're watching this video and it's only just been recently released and you're interested in buying these products, you know, you can get some significant deals from LiTime at this point in time. As far as I know it to be, they've got a significant sale on quite a few of their batteries. So, you know, if you're kind of on the fence and this video helps you know, you make a decision that you wanted to kind of own this technology, in my perspective, now is the time to buy that kind of stuff. So I'll start to wrap the video up and stuff. Like I say, when it comes to the battery now, it's still warm. That terminal did get hot, you know, like I say, you're dealing with high levels of amperage, right, of, you know, to be able to cook and stuff. But it's cold enough now, I can, you know, touch it. It's not, you know, I'm not worried about burning myself or any of that, but the battery does feel warm. You know, definitely pushed it to its limits. But I'm going to stop, eat a couple of pieces of this chicken here, and then I'm going to disconnect this stuff, throw it back in the cart, and I'll give some closing comments. All right there, fellow YouTubers. So that was my review of the LiTime Smart Bluetooth, you know, Group 24 12.8 volt 100 ampere hour lithium iron phosphate battery. And all I can say is this battery is top shelf. I really like having the Bluetooth capacity on the battery. I thought that was extremely handy to have, you know, and it really told me as I walked through my cooking cycle of exactly how much power I was using, how much I had left and all that, without having to get into any type of battery monitors or shunts or any of that business. You know, all that stuff is just you know, becomes a thing of the past when you've got the Bluetooth enabled stuff. So, and when you're out in the field and you might be a distance from your battery setup, it's good to have that kind of ease of access of that information. I found that to be really invaluable, and I could see having large, you know, use of that in a camp or off-grid, you know, field-based environment. I could see that serving practical purpose. When it came to the battery itself for the amp production, I mean, I'm impressed. It held 100 amps over an hour solid, did it without any issue. You know, the terminals do get a little hot. I understand that when you're dealing with, you know, 100 amps and stuff. Heat just happens, right? That's just the nature of amps. But yeah, we're once again, thoroughly impressed. LiTime has excellent products, and for their price points, I mean, in my mind, they can't be beat. There's not very many other lithium iron phosphate batteries that exist on the market that have the quality of the builds. You know, there's other fellows Will Prowse, that have ripped these apart and looked at the innards and stuff of all the internal components are high quality. You know, they've really got their game together when it comes to that stuff, and I'm really pleased. And if you know, somebody asked me would I recommend this battery to be used, 100%. You know, if you're in colder environments where it's going to be below freezing on a regular basis, I would say you want to look into their self-heating batteries. But if you're not in an environment, or you don't see your use, you know, scenarios being in below freezing environments on a regular basis, then this battery is, you know, the way to go in my mind. You know, and I know they have a whole series of LiTime batteries that exist, you know, for different purposes and stuff, but I could definitely see this one being very practical for use out in the field. So like I say, this is Frank Bush here again, and if you enjoy this type of content, please like, share and subscribe, and thanks for watching. Yeah, cheers.